There's a kind of love that doesn't arrive in chaos. It doesn't make you question your worth or beg for attention. It doesn't demand you to chase, convince, or prove yourself worthy of being chosen. It simply meets you, quietly, gracefully, as if the universe had been orchestrating it all along. You see, sometimes what feels like rejection is divine redirection. And when the right person arrives, they don't awaken your anxiety, they calm it. Because the kind of love that's meant for you doesn't run when things get hard. It stands still, just like faith. We spend so much of our lives chasing love. We scroll, we search, we perform. We curate our best angles, our best words, our best selves. All in the hope that someone will finally look at us and say, "You are the one I've been waiting for." But love that is chased often becomes love that must be constantly maintained by effort, anxiety, and fear of loss. We build entire relationships out of performance and then wonder why we feel unseen inside them. Because the truth is, love that's truly meant for you isn't earned through exhaustion. It's revealed through authenticity. It's not about who you impress. It's about who you can be yourself with, without the fear of being too much or not enough. The kind of love that is written by God doesn't require chasing because it's born from becoming. It's not found in the endless pursuit of validation. It's discovered in the quiet work of transformation. When you begin to heal the parts of you that once begged for attention, you stop seeking love that only mirrors your wounds. You start attracting the kind of love that mirrors your peace. That's what divine alignment looks like. Not perfection, but readiness. It's in those seasons of solitude, the ones that feel lonely and uncertain, that God does His most intimate work. He strips away your need to be chosen by someone else, so you can finally choose yourself. He reminds you that you are already worthy, already loved, already seen. Because the person who will walk beside you in the love story He's written cannot meet you in your pretending. They can only meet you in your truth. We often confuse pursuit with purpose. We think if we just try harder, love will finally stay. But sometimes trying harder is just another way of avoiding stillness, a way to distract ourselves from what our heart truly needs to learn. The love that's destined for you won't demand you to chase after it. It will invite you to become the person who can hold it without fear. And that requires stillness, reflection, and courage. There's something sacred about that shift. The moment you stop asking, "When will love come?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming while I wait?" That's when you realize love isn't something you go out and find. It's something that finds you when your soul is aligned with peace, when your heart has learned to rest in its own worth. The most extraordinary love stories don't begin with pursuit, they begin with preparation. They begin when two whole people, shaped by grace and growth, cross paths at a divine intersection neither could have orchestrated. It's not your chasing that leads you there. It's your becoming. And maybe that's what love really is, not a race to be won, but a revelation to be lived. The kind of love you don't chase is the kind that recognizes you when you finally recognize yourself. We live in a world obsessed with timing. We measure our lives by milestones. When we should fall in love, when we should get married, when everything should finally make sense. And when it doesn't happen according to the timeline we imagined, we begin to panic. We look around and think everyone else has found their forever, while we're still waiting for a text that never comes. But love that is written by God doesn't bow to human clocks. Divine timing doesn't operate on urgency. It operates on preparation. It's not that you're being overlooked. It's that you're being prepared for something you wouldn't have recognized before. Waiting feels unbearable because it exposes our deepest insecurities. It makes us question our worth, our desirability, our place in the story. But what if the waiting isn't a void to be filled? What if it's a sacred space of becoming? What if what feels like delay is actually protection? There are seasons in life when God is not withholding love from you. He's protecting you from premature love. The kind that looks right but arrives too early, before your heart knows how to sustain it. You see, love is not just about finding the right person. It's about being the right person when they arrive. If love comes before you're ready to receive it, it can become another wound instead of a blessing. That's why divine timing is not cruel, it's compassionate. It allows both hearts to mature, to shed their illusions, to heal from what they once thought love should be. Sometimes, the waiting is not about finding someone new, but about unlearning the patterns that once kept you in cycles of almost love and half commitments. We want the story to move faster, but there are chapters we cannot skip. You can't rush understanding. You can't rush healing. And you certainly can't rush the timing of something sacred. The right person might already exist in your orbit, but God knows that if they arrive before you were ready, you might not recognize them. You might mistake their peace for boredom. You might sabotage something good because you still believe love has to hurt to be real. So he waits, patiently, silently, until the version of you that can hold love with grace finally steps forward. Until you've learned that waiting isn't about punishment. It's about alignment. And then, almost effortlessly, things begin to make sense. Not because the world changed, but because you did. When divine timing finally unfolds, you realize it wasn't delay, it was design. It was never about God making you wait. It was about Him making sure you were ready. Because the kind of love that's meant for you doesn't come too early or too late. It arrives precisely when your heart is prepared to recognize it as home. We often confuse intensity with intimacy. We meet someone who makes our heart race, who keeps us guessing, who ignites something wild inside us, and we call it love. But sometimes what feels electric is actually anxiety dressed as passion. We've mistaken emotional turbulence for connection because somewhere along the way, we were taught that love should be dramatic to be real. But love that is chosen by God does not come to unsettle you. It comes to ground you. It doesn't confuse your mind. It settles your spirit. It's not about the high of being wanted. It's about the peace of being understood. When love is divine, it carries a calm certainty. You don't find yourself decoding mixed signals or questioning your worth between every text message. You stop performing for reassurance because you can finally feel the stability of mutual respect. The right love won't make you doubt yourself. It will not demand that you sacrifice your peace to keep it alive. It will not ask you to shrink or to beg for clarity. It will meet you with consistency, with gentleness, with truth. It's easy to think that love should always feel thrilling, but the truth is, lasting love often begins quietly. It grows in the comfort of safety, not the rush of unpredictability. When someone's presence brings calm instead of chaos, that's not a lack of spark. That's emotional maturity. You start to realize that peace is not boring. Peace is the deepest form of passion because it allows both hearts to rest, to grow, and to choose each other freely. And maybe that's what God's love looks like when it's reflected in another person. It's not love that takes from you. It's love that gives you back to yourself. You no longer feel the need to earn affection because you exist in it. You're not walking on eggshells, wondering when it will fall apart, because this time you're standing on solid ground. There's a mutual knowing, a sense that you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You can simply be, and that is enough. When love is chosen by God, you stop chasing validation and start embracing connection. You learn that the real test of love isn't how intensely you feel, but how deeply you can trust. Trust that they'll stay when you're vulnerable. Trust that you can disagree without it meaning the end. Trust that honesty won't be punished, but welcome. Because divine love teaches you that the right person won't fear your truth. they'll honor it. And when that love finds you, you'll notice something quiet but profound. You're not anxious anymore. You're not performing. You're not confused. You're at peace. Because the love that's written for you doesn't come to test your worth, it comes to reveal it. And that's how you know it's not chaos, it's not confusion. It's God's way of saying, this is the one. Sometimes love ends, not because it wasn't real, but because it was never meant to last forever. We hold on so tightly to people who were only meant to walk with us for a season, and when they leave, we call it loss. But what if it's not loss at all? What if it's divine intervention? God stepping in to remove what you thought you needed, so He can make space for what will actually help you grow. It's hard to see that in the moment because endings rarely feel holy. They feel like heartbreak, rejection, and abandonment. Yet, often what you call heartbreak is really God's redirection in disguise. We tend to believe that if something ends, it must have failed. But sometimes the ending is the success, the moment when you finally learn to stop settling for almost love. There are people who come into your life to awaken something in you, to show you what you want or what you can no longer tolerate. They serve a sacred purpose, even if their presence is temporary. They mirror your unhealed places, your fears, your patterns. And when their chapter closes, it's not punishment, it's clarity. Because once you've been broken open, you can finally see what wholeness requires. It takes courage to let go of someone you still love, to release the hand you once prayed to hold forever. But sometimes, God removes who you want because He knows they're connected to a version of you that no longer exists. You're evolving, and not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Some loves are classrooms, not destinations. They teach you the language of self-worth, the boundaries you once ignored, the strength you didn't know you had. And when their lesson is complete, holding on becomes resistance to growth. In those moments of release, it's tempting to look backward and wonder what could have been done differently. But when God writes your love story, nothing is wasted. Even the heartbreak has meaning. Even the silence serves a purpose. Every goodbye carries the seed of something greater, because when someone exits your life, it's often to make space for the person who will enter it with more grace, more peace, more alignment. You see, the one who's meant for you won't require you to compromise your peace to keep them. They won't drain your spirit in the name of passion. They won't confuse leaving with loving. The person God sends won't be a test. They'll be a gift. And sometimes, the only way to recognize that gift is by first walking through what isn't meant for you. It hurts, yes. But healing isn't proof that love failed. It's proof that your heart still believes in what's possible. The loss wasn't there to break you. It was there to prepare you. Because when God removes who you wanted, it's only because He's making room for who you truly deserve. There is something profoundly beautiful about a love that arrives quietly. The kind that doesn't rush in with grand gestures or sweep you off your feet in a whirlwind of emotions, but rather finds you in the stillness of your becoming. It doesn't need to prove itself because its presence speaks louder than any promise could. It feels steady, grounded, and safe. A kind of peace that doesn't demand attention, yet transforms everything it touches. When love is right, it doesn't chase time, it honors timing. It grows with patience, it builds with care. It allows two people to unfold at a pace that honors their souls, not their fears. So often, we've been conditioned to believe that love should be instant. That if it doesn't happen fast, it's not real. But anything that grows too quickly rarely develops roots deep enough to last. The kind of love written by God understands that true connection takes time. It's not built on chemistry alone, but on consistency. It's not fueled by intensity, but by intention. It doesn't rush you to define it. It invites you to experience it. When the right love enters your life, It doesn't pressure you to be ready before your heart is. It gives you space to heal, to breathe, to rediscover who you are. It's patient with your past and gentle with your scars. It doesn't fear your silence, nor does it demand constant reassurance. It holds room for both your laughter and your uncertainty. Because when love is genuine, it's not intimidated by your depth. It's drawn to it. It understands that the most meaningful connections are not built in haste, but nurtured over time. You'll notice this love doesn't need grand declarations to feel real. Its strength lies in the small things, in how it listens, how it shows up, how it chooses you over and over without making a spectacle of it. It doesn't rush to the finish line because it's not afraid of the journey. It knows that love isn't about arrival, it's about presence. It's about the quiet moments where understanding replaces words and safety replaces struggle. The love chosen by God doesn't compete with your healing, it complements it. It doesn't force you to rush past the parts of yourself still learning to trust. Instead, it waits, not passively, but faithfully. It honors your process while slowly building a foundation strong enough to carry both of you. It doesn't lose patience because it knows that what is divinely aligned cannot be lost by time. When that kind of love finds you, you'll recognize it by its calmness. It won't make you question its place in your life. It won't create chaos to feel alive. It will simply exist, steady, sacred, and sure. Because the love that's meant for you doesn't rush. It arrives right on time and stays long enough to prove that peace was the passion you were always waiting for. You can always tell the difference between a love that's rooted in fear and one that's rooted in faith. Fearful love clings, controls, and questions. It seeks constant proof, constant reassurance, because deep down it doesn't trust its own foundation. It lives in the shadow of loss, afraid to be left, afraid to be unseen, afraid to be alone. But love that is chosen by God doesn't live in fear, it moves through faith. It's not obsessed with permanence because it understands that what is meant for you cannot be taken from you. It's not desperate to possess, it's content to connect. It's not driven by the need to control, but by the desire to nurture. When love reflects God, it becomes a mirror of peace. It doesn't demand perfection. It calls forth authenticity. It doesn't make you smaller to feel safe. It celebrates your wholeness because it knows that love is not a cage. It's a sanctuary. The right person will not ask you to abandon the parts of yourself that make you who you are. They will not shame you for being emotional, passionate, or sensitive. Instead, they will see those traits as expressions of your soul. Love chosen by God doesn't dilute your essence. It deepens it. It helps you return to the person you were before you learned to hide. Many of us spend years chasing relationships that feed our fears rather than our faith. We're drawn to what's familiar, even when it hurts, because our wounds recognize their reflection. We call it chemistry, when in truth, it's just repetition. But there comes a moment when the heart grows tired of survival love, the kind that burns fast and leaves ashes. That's when God begins to shift your desires. Not by sending the right person immediately, but by healing the part of you that kept choosing the wrong ones. Because divine love begins within. When you start to believe that you deserve peace, you stop accepting chaos. When you believe you deserve respect, you stop tolerating disrespect. And when you believe you deserve love that reflects God, you stop chasing the ones that reflect your fear. A love rooted in faith feels different. It doesn't make you anxious, it makes you aware. You're no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop because you're no longer living in the past. You're not trying to predict pain. You're learning to rest in presence. This kind of love grows slowly, anchored in trust and grounded in mutual grace. It's not about proving anything. It's about becoming everything you were created to be. Together, but still whole on your own. And when that love finds you, it won't feel like you've been rescued. It will feel like you've been recognized. Because love that reflects God doesn't complete you. It reveals you. It shows you that peace was never the absence of passion, but the presence of something sacred, steady, and true.